Dear learners, in this session we will discuss a very interesting topic, biological perspective of child development and its educational implications. So we will be discussing a number of things, number of points in this session. Let us see what all will be covered in this session. So in this session we will discuss first of all meaning of child development, then what is biological perspective of child development, maturation viewpoint and its educational implications, and then attachment viewpoint and its educational implications. So let us first discuss the meaning of child development, how child development takes place and what are the different domains. Let us find it out. So child development refers to many changes. What kind of changes? Now these changes can be categorized into 4 broad domains. What are these 4 broad domains? First is physical development. When I talk about physical development, it means all the physical and biological changes between birth and adolescence. Second is changes which are categorized under cognitive development. Cognitive development means how the child thinks, explores and figures out various things. Even the brain development is also included in the cognitive development. Then there is psychosocial development. When we talk about psychosocial development, it refers to the various attitudes and skills which play an important role in the development of the personality of the child. And then the moral development, because child needs to learn the socially acceptable behaviors and attitudes. That means learning behaviors and attitudes keeping in mind the social, cultural norms, rules. So this comes under moral development. Now there are different perspectives for understanding child development. We can understand child development from biological perspective, from lifespan perspective, bioecological perspective, cognitive perspective and socio-cultural perspective. In this session, we will be focusing only on biological perspective. Let us see what is biological perspective in the development of child. When we talk about biological perspective in child development, actually we are connecting it to the Charles Darwin's theory of organic evolution. So biological perspective in child development, it first emerged during the beginning of the 20th century, and as I mentioned just now, it was motivated in part by Charles Darwin's groundbreaking ideas regarding evolution. In short, the biological perspective on child development states that the cognitive, motor functions, personality and physical traits of children, they develop in accordance with the biological design. Now, G. Stanley Hall, a psychologist at the turn of the 19th century, he was the first one to study childhood development in terms of the biological design. Now, if we talk about the nature versus nurture debate, because this debate is going on, and where can we place the biological perspective in this debate? The biological perspective can be placed in nature part, because when I say nature part, it means I am emphasizing on the evolutionary, on the hormonal aspects and also the genetic part. So biological perspective focuses on the evolutionary and the hormonal influences. When we are talking about the biological perspective, so here I would like to mention the 2 viewpoints which are related to the biological perspective. First is the maturation viewpoint, which was given by the Arnold Giselle, and second is attachment viewpoint, which was given by the John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth. So now learners, my focus will be to study the biological perspective, first from the maturation viewpoint and then from the attachment viewpoint. Our focus now not only to find out the primary characteristics of these two viewpoints, but to also find out their applications in the field of education. So let us see what is maturation viewpoint and what are the primary characteristics of maturation viewpoint. As I mentioned just now, that this viewpoint was given by Arnold Giselle, and he was a psychologist and a pediatrician who helped develop the field of child development. And he is primarily responsible for the maturation theory of development, and according to this theory, personalities of children are not caused by their environments but by their genes. So it is inherited. When we say that biological design, it means it is already there in the body, it is predetermined and it is also sequential. So what do children need? Children only require love, care, food and a roof over their head. Now we all have heard stories about twins who were separated at the time of the birth, and we have seen that although separated and also raised in different situations, but they shared many and most of the traits, to such an extent that some twins, they named their dogs and children also the same name. Now the primary characteristics, some more characteristics I would like to discuss here in this session. First of all, as I mentioned, there is a biological design. So this biological design means that the development is predetermined, it is fixed, it is predictable and sequential and takes place in stages. So it means I can derive that all children go through same series of fixed sequences, but each child has his or her unique rate or pace. We have seen in the class also that children, they learn at their pace. Some are slow learners, some are fast learners. So stages are fixed, stages are predictable, but each child learns at his or her own pace. Now the child, that means product of his or her environment, there is no doubt about it, but playing a larger role are genes and human nature. Now learners, I would like to discuss some examples of this maturation viewpoint. Ram is sitting in a classroom, and he prefers to sit alone. He is not mixing with other kids. Now according to the maturation theory, we should not force Ram to mix with others or to play with others, and he should be left alone. Okay. Now let's come to the physical maturation. We have seen that at the time of birth, children, they use various reflexes. Now what are reflexes? Reflexes are involuntary, and many of these reflexes are required for survival. For example, if I take the breathing reflex, this is required for maintaining the level of oxygen, then maintaining your body temperature. How do children maintain their body temperature? They maintain their body temperature through crying, through shivering, by pushing their blanket. Sucking is another reflex that helps in nutrition. But as they become older, we find that children, they are now, they are relying on reflexes, but they are slowly shifting to the gross motor skills. For example, skills like crawling, sitting up, walking and running. They also develop fine motor skills for writing and drawing. So, these are the indicators of physical maturation, that children are shifting from reflexes to use of motor skills. Reflexes are involuntary, that means they are not controlled by free will, whereas the motor skills, they are voluntary. So, these are indicators of physical maturation in children. Let us discuss some more examples of maturation viewpoint. Twins separated at the time of birth and then they were reunited as they became older. Now, this is a case of two ladies who were known as the laughing twins because both of them shared the same good humor, same personality trait was shown by both the laughing twins, although they were separated at the time of birth. So, what is it hinting at? This particular example is hinting at the role of the biological design, the role of the genes. So, the focus here is on the genetic part, not on the environment. Although they were raised in different environments, but genes played their role and they shared their trait. Another example is that children must mature to a certain point before they can learn some skills. So, a baby who is just 4 months old cannot speak, but can only babble, some vague sound is coming out which we cannot make out. But as he grows up and then grows to an age of 2, the child can now talk with the help of others. So, this is an indication that cognitive development occurs from simple to complex tasks. Now, let us find out the educational implications of maturation viewpoint, that the development takes place according to a biological design. It is predetermined, it is fixed, it is sequential, takes place in stages. So, what are the educational implications of maturation viewpoint? Let us find it out. First of all, the role of the maturation and learning. It helps the parents or the teacher to know what and when to begin training. Because if you are providing some guidance, if you are providing some training and the child is not mature enough to learn, then what will happen? There will be a wastage of time of the teacher or the parent, and also the child will not show any interest. So therefore it is very, very important, the readiness for learning. We have to find out that the child is ready for learning a skill, learning some educational content. So this becomes very important for all of us to find out the readiness for learning, and this forms a solid base for learning. Then learning should begin when the child is ready to learn, and if the child is ready to learn and if he is not given guidance. So it is important on both ways. First the child should be ready, and then only he should be given some kind of programs, educational programs or the guidance programs or the training programs. And suppose the child is ready to learn but no guidance is given, no training is provided. So in that case there are all chances that the child will lose interest. Maturation comes with learning and not necessarily with age. Another point, we see that the children who belong to the same age group or are from the same developmental stage, they have the same type of abilities also. So in case we can find out that these children, they belong to this particular age group or they belong to the same developmental stage, so then it becomes easier for the teacher to design an educational program or to use some educational techniques or to use some teaching aids for this particular group which belongs to the same age group or to the same developmental stage. So it becomes easier for the elders or for the teachers to design the programs, the educational programs for these children. Now, keeping in mind that these are the objectives which can be achieved at a particular age, the programs can be designed, and not only the programs, the entire curriculum can be designed, that at particular stage these objectives can be achieved. So keeping in mind the objectives, the curriculum can also be designed. So this maturation viewpoint plays a very, very important role in providing the education programs, the guidance programs, as well as the training programs for the children. Now, after discussing the maturation viewpoint, let us move to the second viewpoint, that is attachment viewpoint. So, let us see what are the main focus of attachment theory. Now, attachment theory, it focuses on the relationships and bonds between people. Particularly, we are talking about the long-term relationships. Like long-term relationships we find between a parent and a child, and also the life partners. Now, let us see what are the main points of this attachment theory. As I mentioned earlier, British psychologist John Bowlby, he was the first attachment theorist describing attachment as a lasting psychological connectedness between human beings. He was also interested in understanding the separation anxiety and distress that children experience when they are separated from primary caregivers. Now, the behaviorist theories, they suggested that attachment was just a learned behavior. But Bowlby, he observed that even when the feeding was done and after feeding, even the child experienced the anxiety because the primary caregivers, they were separated. So feeding did not result in the disappearance of anxiety. So it cannot be a learned behavior. Rather, he believed that attachment was categorized by clear behavioral and motivational patterns. When children are frightened, they will seek proximity from their primary caregivers in order to receive both comfort and care. So, what is attachment? Attachment is an emotional bond with another person. Bowlby, he believed that the earliest bonds formed by children with their caregivers have a tremendous impact that continues throughout life. This means if the child feels secured and if the child is able to develop a very strong bond with the primary caregivers, then this security or this love and affection or this formation of the bond, it has a very long-term effect that continues throughout the life. So providing security, providing love, providing care to a newborn baby is very, very important, because this is going to affect his entire life. Then Bowlby again suggested that attachment also serves to keep the infant close to the mother. And when the infant is close to the mother, we can understand that this improves the chances of survival of the child. Then Bowlby, he viewed attachment as a product of evolutionary processes. I have already discussed that when we are talking about the biological perspective, the focus is on genetic, evolutionary and the hormonal influences. So we are repeating the same point, that attachment is seen as a product of evolutionary processes. Unlike behaviorist theories, Bowlby and others proposed that children are born with an innate drive to form attachments with caregivers. Throughout history, children who maintain proximity to an attachment figure were more likely to receive comfort and protection and therefore more likely to survive to adulthood. Through the process of natural selection, a motivational system designed to regulate attachment emerged. So, what is responsible for successful attachment? Now, if we talk about the behaviorist theories, the focus was on the point that it is a learned behavior. Attachment is a learned behavior. So, they focused on food because the child is hungry and looks for mother. So, because of the food, there is formation of the attachment. Whereas, Bowlby and others, they demonstrated that it is not food but nurturance and responsiveness. These were the primary factors leading to attachment. Now let us come to the educational implications of attachment viewpoint. Attachment influences school success through two routes. And what are these two routes? First, indirectly through attachment to parents and directly through attachment to teachers and schools. Nurturing adult attachments provide children with protective, safe havens and secure bases from which to explore and engage with others and the environment. So, if a good bond is there, strong bond is there between a child and his primary caregivers. So, this is the beginning, and then he gets encouraged to explore further. Early caregiving has a long-lasting impact on development, the ability to learn, capacity to regulate emotions, and form satisfying relationships. Attachment is crucial to children's psychological welfare and forms the basis of personality development and socialization. So, what is required on the part of the teachers and others? Teachers, youth workers, and significant adults in a child's life can provide important attachments for children. So, the biological function of attachment is survival. The psychological function of attachment is to gain security. Now, what are the risk factors which can affect the quality of attachment between child and the parent? First is poverty. Second, we find parental mental health difficulties, or if there is violence or any form of abuse at home, or alcohol or drug taken during pregnancy, multiple home and school placements, premature birth, or if the child is abandoned after birth. So, these are the factors which can affect the quality of attachment between child and the parent. Now, there are 4 identified attachment types. Now, what is an indication of the secure attachment? The indication, I'm okay, you are there for me. So, here the child can trust his or her parents. So, an indicator of a secure attachment. It's not okay to be emotional. This is an indication of insecure, avoidant type attachment. Then, insecure, ambivalent attachment. I want comfort, but it does not help me. Insecure, disorganized. I am frightened. So, the nature of attachment type is predictor of emotional responses and later social behavior and resilience. Dear learners, in this session we have discussed what is child development, and child development can be categorized under 4 domains. Those domains I have already discussed with you: the physical development, cognitive development, psychosocial and moral development. After discussing what is child development, next we move to the biological perspective. the meaning of biological perspective. And then the focus was on the maturation and the attachment viewpoints and their educational implications. I hope you have understood and enjoyed the session. Thank you very much.